Welcome back to HU Spotlight. They say the key to a good offense is a great defense, and that's certainly shaping up to be the case in Denver. Sean Payton happy with that side of the development because he says it takes a little bit of pressure off of his second-year quarterback, Bo Nix, who was one of the few surprises from the 2024 draft class. Nix, the first Broncos player to win Offensive Rookie of the Month honors in 22 years, leading Denver to a 3-1 record with 7 touchdowns, just 1 interception last October. It's when he put himself on the map. Now he's hoping to avoid that sophomore slump that we always talk about. Easier said than done, though, but maybe his rookie season holds the blueprint. Nix with the most passing touchdowns by a rookie since Justin Herbert back in 2020. He finished second all-time among rookies in passing touchdowns, third in total touchdowns. Both he and Jaden Daniels, the only rookies in the NFL history with 10 or more wins, 4,000 or more yards, and 30 or more touchdowns in a single season. The question is, can he keep it going? So let's get between the trenches with our trench guys. We got a couple of we got linemen, I should say, an offensive lineman in Ryan Harris, who won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, and our defensive guy, lineman Leger Douzable. Fellas, Sean Payton has said multiple times there's a lot of ways to help out a young quarterback. One of them is a good defense, so check there, Ryan. You've been on the Bo Nix hype train, though, since he was named the starter last year. In fact, you and I had the conversation about why you were so confident on him. Do you think that confidence, that success carries over into his second season?
I do, because Bo Nix came out and the first thing he said in OTAs was, I have a lot to prove and a lot to show. A lot to show? This is a quarterback who, as a rookie, had the longest pass in the air in the entire NFL. He threw it about 74 yards in the air to Marvin Mims for a touchdown. He had some great experience as well, including an overtime loss at the Bengals, and they had a scoring drive to start the playoffs for Bo Nix's career as they went to Buffalo, but then they got beat the brakes off of by the Bills, who are an experienced team. But I love that you have a starting quarterback come back and say, I've got a lot to prove and a lot to show on top of the experience that he had last season.
Leger, when you look at Bo Nix, the rookie, where were the biggest areas of concern, the biggest areas of growth that you need to see, especially with training camp coming up later this summer?
I think Ryan alluded to it perfectly. That Bengals overtime loss, we kind of saw Bo Nix grow into himself, because that was the biggest get on him. When the Broncos got down, his record wasn't good earlier in the season in regards to helping to elevate his team and lead them from behind. But we saw the big-time throws to Marvin Mims in that game, and if things just bounce their way a different way, they win that game versus Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they ultimately ended up winning Week 18 and got them into the playoffs. And to Ryan's point, they got butt-whipped by the Buffalo Bills. But to me, that was the biggest growth that I saw from Bo Nix, right? When his team was down, could he be able to elevate his team? Because it's easy to celebrate when you're at the front of the race, but when you're behind, do you have that gear to switch things up, to put the team on your back and lead them to victory? Even though they didn't win that game versus the Bengals, he showed me something. I think he's going to continue to grow in his second year with Sean Payton at the helm as offensive coordinator.
I will never get over Sean Payton calling Bo Nix and Zach Wilson at the time his orphaned puppies and them finding a home out in Denver. I will never let him leave that alone. If we switch to the other side of the ball, guys, Pete Prisco, of course, released his top 100 NFL players earlier this week. It saw the cornerback, Patrick Surtain II, at number 9. Leger, you and Pete were in agreement in this conversation. He's the best corner in the league at this time. What makes him the guy in this secondary for Denver?
I think when you look at PS2, the ability to play not only zone coverage, but man coverage, but also his ability to follow the number one receiver on the opposite side and tell him play in and play out. I don't think people know how taxing that is on your body. And then his body of work versus some of those top receivers in the league. He has shut guys down. Defensive player of the year, it's rare. You see it right there. Not many guys that play in a defensive backfield have won defensive player of the year. Him, Patrick Surtain. Before that, it was Stephon Gilmore. Then it was 10 years before that, Charles Woodson. So that showed you how dominant PS2 was. He's a willing tackler. Was watching some film earlier, the way they're able to use them, Vance Joseph, and they'll give you some man looks where he'll follow the number one receiver, but then they'll drop out in zone. So his understanding of route concepts he's very instinctual when it comes to zone coverage, but his ability that really separates him is how he's able to take away the number one receiver from the opposing team.
Well, let's be real. He's got a great mentor, a great idol to follow, and his dad, Patrick Surtain, Surtain Sr. And Leger, you and I talked about this earlier this week. We can't quite compare the two when it comes to the numbers because we know Sr. has already played 11 seasons. Patrick Surtain II still very early in his career. But Ryan, when you look at these two players, father and son, what are the similarities that you see between the two here, and what is the trajectory for Junior to follow in Dad's footsteps?
Well, both share an incredible physicality at the corner position. And Leger will tell you, half the time in a defensive huddle, you're yelling at the corner to be tough. Come make that tackle. Well, Patrick Surtain Sr. and Junior are willing to hit early and often in the game. They also have a great knack, and clearly Pat Surtain Sr. taught PS2 how to kind of use the field to identify where players are while you're still looking at the quarterback. Something incredibly hard to do, especially without drawing a penalty. Yet Pat Certan II is one of the best corners in the NFL because he can do that, which means that he can trail somebody in a go route and then fall off on a deep curl underneath. Those are nightmares for quarterbacks when their opposing quarterbacks are trying to figure out who to throw to, and the reaction time is something different as well, that is different with the Certans than anybody else. And right now, Pat Surtain Jr., the second, well, he's got a better career. But Pat Surtain Sr., he put in the length. He put in the time. So I think that at the end of the day, you're going to see the PS2 have a better career. But the senior has 11 years right now. And Haley, it's hard to get to 5, 6, 7 in the NFL. And 11? Woo! That's tough. So PS2 has a little more work to go. But both are talented backs. And clearly, father has taught son.
Can you imagine like the trash talking scenarios between those two? I'm sure it's a blast. By the way, Patrick Surtain Sr. is celebrating his 48th birthday today. So happy birthday, Patrick Surtain Sr. Let's continue the conversation when it comes to the defense, because I talked about that earlier, right? This commitment to making sure that that side of the ball is taken care of. You saw that in some of these offseason acquisitions. Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, two names to come over to supplement some draft picks as well. Ryan, you're looking at Greenlaw here as the biggest offseason addition. What does that addition tell you about that commitment to defense?
Well, Dre Greenlaw's had tremendous experience, number one, right? This is a player who made it all the way to the Super Bowl and ended up having a torn Achilles jogging onto the field. That's brutal. But he was coming off, before last season, 2 back-to-back 100-plus yard tackles. And what he can do for the Broncos, who've really missed a big linebacker in the middle, is he can shut off those medium passes across the middle because of his height and his ability to read the run and then back out if it's a play-action pass. You need your linebackers in the AFC West to be able to fill the hole to stop the run game, and equally as talent, with as much talent, cover in the backfield in that middle of the field. Dre Greenlaw is going to bring a tremendous amount of leadership, speed, and physicality to a defense that just set the franchise record with 63 sacks last season. The best defense in the NFL just got better.
Rob, I'm going to keep us in sync because you're an offensive lineman and you went defensive player. I'm a defensive lineman. I'm going to go offensive player. Evan Ingram, and if you know anything about Sean Payton's offense, he needs that tight end to be able to attack in the red zone and attack the middle of the field. There's nothing better for a young quarterback than to have a safety blanket at the tight end position. And people will say Evan Ingram only played 9 games last year, and you look at the trajectory, he had 365 yards. So if you double that, he would have had well over 700 yards, and that's exactly what the Denver Broncos were missing. Somebody that can attack the middle of the field. Evan Ingram, he's a mismatch nightmare for linebackers and safeties. I went back and watched some of that Jacksonville Jaguars tape, and people were saying, well, he doesn't separate as much. Well, not the tape that I saw. He was giving the business to middle linebackers and safeties in the first part of the season. Then it ends up getting hurt. He had a hamstring injury and a torn labrum. But I think he's going to be a nice safety blanket for young quarterback Bo Nix over the middle of the field, and be also somebody that he can get the ball to in the red zone.
Of course, we can't sing all the praises in Denver. They did lose a few key pieces as well. Both of you in agreement here. The loss of the linebacker and Cody Barton is a big deal. Leger, what does Denver lose without him in the rotation?
Well, the biggest thing they lose is an experienced player who's not afraid of the other team. And I know that sounds funny to some fans, but look, it's a big deal when you're trying to beat the Chiefs twice in a season. When you see Justin Herbert throw the ball in the air, you have to have no fear, and you have to be able to understand what's happening, especially in the game, what a team's likely going to do. That's what they're missing in Cody Barton, who I think is going to be very successful for Tennessee. But they also, I think, got an upgrade in Dre Greenlaw.
All right, Leger, you also agree, Cody Barton, big loss in Tennessee there, so we'll see how that all shapes out when you think about the 2025 season. Big shoes to fill. I know it wasn't like a successful year in terms of winning a championship, but they did snap an 8-season playoff drought following that win in the Super Bowl, Ryan, that you were a part of. So let's get to some schedule predictions here for 2025. Leger, I come to you first. They open up the season against the Titans. They've got a trip mixed into London as well. What are you expecting in Denver this year?
I'm expecting the Denver Broncos to go 12-5, and for the first time in 9 years, be the AFC West champions, right? Since the Kansas City Chiefs have owned that division for the last 9 years, winning it 9 years in a row. But you go back to last year when they played them at Kansas City, if not for a special teams snafu, they win that game. They beat them week 18. Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs didn't have their starters, but this Denver team, Ryan spoke about it, maybe the best defense in football. And when you look at teams that have won Super Bowls led by their defense, they say defense wins championships. No, it's dominant defenses that win championships. Just go back to last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. You can go back to 2020 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2013, the Seattle Seahawks, and 2015, Ryan's Denver Broncos. That was a dominant defense, and they won a championship. That's why I think they will win the AFC West, because when you look at them statistically, when it comes to defensive categories, #1 in sacks, top 5 in red zone defense, top 5 in yards per play allowed, and top 5 in points per game given up. And then they got significantly better when you add a Jade Barron, a Talanoa Hufanga, and Dre Greenlaw. So this defense is a championship type defense, and I think that's the reason why they will finally upset and dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs and win the AFC West.
Music to my ears, Leger. I love hearing it. I got actually the Broncos with one more win than you this season. I think they're going 13-4. And look, this is going to be a tough schedule. You get in the beginning, Chargers, Bengals, Eagles. If you can make it through that, taking 2 or 3, you're putting the league on notice. But then later on, you're going to have the Commanders, Packers, and Chiefs on a short week. That final stretch of the season is going to be a big difference maker. And look out for that game at the Texans. The Texans, congratulations to them. They're kind of a litmus test team now in the AFC. You expect them to be in the playoffs. You expect them to play well. So if the Broncos can take 2 or 3 between the Chargers, Bengals, Eagles, beat the Texans in Houston, and dominate the Chiefs 2 times in the season, I agree with Leger. They're going to win the first AFC West title since 2015. And then the issue is, can they stay focused with their success as a young team?
All right, so we're leaning into the winning ways out in Denver. Gentlemen, we appreciate it, and we'll see. Maybe those Chiefs going to get upset in 2025. That is how our experts feel. Here's how the SportsLine model has it shaking out. Over 9 wins, so both the guys check mark there. The division, a 20% chance there, so watch out, Kansas City Chiefs. And, oh, by the way, a 2% chance of making it to the Super Bowl in 25, Tommy.
Shocker, Ryan Harris pointed at 2015. Their Super Bowl season against Carolina. All right, we're going to keep with the